This is a 2010 Specialized Stumpjumper. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to install a new front shock on this bike. Now the first thing you need to do, so this is the new shock I've installed, but the model number for the bike is right up here. You need to look under here and see what year it is, because that's you use different sizes shocks and yokes. And then this is what came out of it. In this video, I'm going to show you how to convert from a specialized rear shock that has a proprietary mount to a standard rear shock with a special conversion. Let's talk a little bit about selecting the right parts for the new installation. Everything starts by going to bikeyoke.com and looking at a little spreadsheet that they have. And you can see for my 2010 26-inch, I need the SJ1, just A01's yoke, but then my shock needs to be 190 length millimeters and 45 millimeter travel. If you have a different year on a Specialized Stumpjumper, you just go to this chart and select the ones that you want. So here's the part selected a little better so you can see it. Bikeyoke.com, yoke SJ01. And then the shock that I chose is 190 millimeters length, 45 millimeter travel. This is just an inexpensive one from Amazon. Now the parts from the old shock that you want to use on the new shock setup are only a few. So you're not going to use the yoke, but you are going to use these guys. They fit right on like that. And then you're also going to use this bolt and these flat washers. So there's one bolt. Now let's talk about the lower end here, attaching the new shock to the new yoke. When you look here, you can realize that they're a little, the shock end is a little too wide. And so what we're going to do is we are going to use this screw that comes with the new yoke, but we're not going to use the washer, the bushing. And so there's a couple ways I can do this. One of them is I could narrow this shock down, and it only needs to be about 25 thousandths on each side, which isn't very much. But it's really hard to hold this shock in a vise to machine it. So what I want to do, which would be a little better, is I'm going to open up this gap right here. And I'm going to open up this about 25 thousandths on each side. And so I've written the measurements down here for you. This is how I'm going to open up that yoke. So I have a milling machine. And I'm going to take 25 thousandths off one side and basically 25 off another. I'm going to get it going. I have to hand hold, so I'm not going to do the whole thing. You can see it spinning. And I'm just going to start it here just to show you. Slowly. It's aluminum, so that's pretty easy. I'm just going to go nice and slow. And I've taken this out of the lathe, and you can see it's milled to about, this is to about 0.553, maybe a little bit more. Now the real important thing to do here is to make sure that your bushing that you're going to put in here is just slightly longer than the thickness of here, so it doesn't pinch when you put it when you install it. So we're going to make sure that this bushing is at least 0.553. And this might be slightly over 0.553. I'm not sure. It doesn't really matter as long as you get at least 0.553. I have a little shear line lathe that I'm going to use to cut the bushing down to size. So you can see I have the bushing already in the 3-jaw chuck. So I have my cutting bit zeroed at the end, so now I'm just going to dial in 0.553, or maybe a little even more. More is better than less in this case. 5, that's ½ an inch. 5, let's do 3.5, just to be safe. Let's try to cut this off again. That was a much better cut than the first time. Yeah, 0.5535. All right, that's really nice. That's just about right. All right, so let's put this together. Now, one thing I noticed is that these shocks faces were not super parallel. It was a little narrower here than it was towards the back, and it was causing a little bit of binding. So I just took a file and I just filed this off where it was rising up a little bit. And so what happens is that it fits like this, and then this goes on, and then this screw. So it should, although when it's installed, it really doesn't go one way or the other. So it really doesn't need to move too much, but you can see there, that's what you want it to be like. I mean, with that little arc in there, it was tightening up and not moving. We've got the bottom yoke installed on the shock now. And so we're gonna now look at the upper joint and how to do that. So this is the old one. So we're gonna use this nut, existing nut. We're gonna use that existing washer. There is a plastic washer that's gonna be the wrong thickness now, so we're not gonna use that. And then we're gonna use the bolt and not the other plastic washer, and then another metal washer. So that's the old bushing, and what we do is we measure the length of that old bushing, and that's the length we want the new bushing to be. And so that new bushing that's going in here needs to be the exact same length as this bushing. And I've cut it already. It's this bushing right here. There it goes. So here's just a little diagram that shows the dimensions. For this Stumpjumper, you want the bushing to be 0.622 inches long. You only need one of these bushings. You're going to cut it from the material that's provided in the kit. The plastic washer you're going to cut is 0.050 inches, and you're going to need 2 of those. And then lastly, the metal washer that was used on the old installation, you're going to use that. So we have the bushing installed. Here's the thin washer that I've cut. It goes on there like that. And then here's the other thin washer. There's the metal washer and the nut. So that's how the assembly is going to be, this is going to be assembled in place on the bike. I didn't show you cutting those bushings or washers, but I cut them the exact same way as you saw me cut the other bushing. I just cut it on a little shear line lathe so we get the exact right dimension. So now the Stumpjumper bike, we're ready to install the assembly. So the Stumpjumper front piece, see how it fits. Sometimes it's a little bit difficult getting this guys in here. So I typically install the plastic washers and let them sit on there. So they're sitting on there right now. I have the bike wheel all the way down. We're gonna come in here like this. That's nice. So all the measurements are up. We're gonna go past where we need there. All right. So there we got those in. So the washers, remember the washers go in this side too. There we go. Now I'm installing the screws in the back yoke. You do remember that you're going to need to put Loctite on these and on this one up here. I'm just showing you how it goes in. I'm using my arm to just raise and lower this and get it threaded. There you go. So that's the way you do that, and do the same on the other side. So, and this is showing the shock, the rear shock fully installed. Everything is looking really good and works really smooth.